When I was told that there would be the art of Chihuly come here, I thought it could be stunning, which it is.
The way that I work is by doing a lot of work, and out of that comes ideas, refinement, more work, more ideas. Other artists work in a different way. They work more quietly and more slowly and more conceptually.
There were some great architects that weren't prolific, but yet did extraordinary work, you know, project after project. And Louis Kahn comes to mind when I'm thinking of great architects. And I remember being in the courtyard at the Salk Institute, looking out at the Pacific Ocean at a sunset. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
Jonas Salk, after he developed the polio vaccine, was really a national and international hero and decided to start an institute that would foster creative discovery. But his way of doing that was rather unique because he wanted to combine arts and humanists with scientists. And actually some of the early founders came from a variety of fields.
When my father first had the conception of creating this institute, one of the things that was most on his mind was to create a place where science and art and the humanities could come together, where people working in those various fields would interact.
And of course, he and Louis Kahn had this interesting relationship between them that helped to develop what the Institute is today. Originally, Louis Kahn had the idea of 3 buildings. And that would mean there'd be 2 courtyards. And the story is that Jonas said, no, you can't do that. You have to have only 1 courtyard, otherwise you'll have different cultures will grow up in these 2 different courtyards. So that was modified through this dialogue between Louis Kahn and Jonas Salk about this.
So those were the notions that Jonas had, and they coincided very much with the kind of philosophy of design that Lou had, which was about wholeness, completeness, and people working together from different disciplines, because Lou believed in that.
This building is unquestionably the product of conversation between Jonas and Lou Kahn, and also somebody who must never be forgotten. Originally, with the 2 parts of the building, there was to be some sort of a big garden with trees and everything in between, until this man, this Mexican landscape sculptor, architect, Luis Barrigan, came and he said nothing at all, and that's exactly what. And this place is so stunning as such, you know.
We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Salk Institute, and one of the ideas was to really do something that would honor not only the legacy of the Salk and what Jonas did, but honor the intent of what Jonas wanted to create was a place where art and science could come together. And came up with the idea of why don't we put all this together and bring in an exhibition by somebody that would ignite the curiosity and excitement of the Salk in celebration of the 50th anniversary.
I don't know what it is about the Salk Institute and light. It's kind of like Venice, you know, has extraordinary light, and Jerusalem has got beautiful light. And I've never seen the light work more beautifully with my pieces than it did at the Salk Institute, one of the great sites of all time.
We got some pushback before everything started. The scientists said, well, this is going to disrupt our productivity.
I always think that this, when you deal with entities of this power and significance, it's dangerous to mess with them.
There was probably a mixed response. You know, would it be, how would it work? You don't know until you actually do it. And my own personal reaction was really quite positive because I'd been familiar with his work in the past, and I'd seen some in a variety of venues, including the Monterey Aquarium, which I was just struck by chance coming across it, and I saw that it really worked in that venue, so I was optimistic that it would work really well.
My favorite quote is one by a Nobel laureate, Albert Saint-Georges, who said in 1947, discovery consists of seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking what no one else has thought. I mean, why does Dale Chihuly do what he does? Is because he sees an image in his mind that he creates that I could never see.
There is no question that this sun is a stunning piece. And where it is located is absolutely superb. And it's even more stunning at night, I would say, than during the day. It really is extraordinary.
The boat with the floats inside, that came from Finland. When we were there in 1995, there was a river right next to the glass house. And at one point I decided that I'd try throwing some glass into the river.
1, 2, yes!
And I like being around water. And I started throwing the glass in. And then I had the teenagers in the village get in their boats and go down the river and pick up the pieces of glass, put them in the boat, bring them back so I could throw them back in the water again. And this went on and on for hours. And I liked the looks of those boats with glass in them, so I've used that piece in several different installations around the country.
I was also talking to one of the installers while it was going up, and I said, well, how do you know where to put the piece? Is it going to go exactly in the same piece in this installation as it did in the previous installation? And his reaction was a big smile. You know, he obviously had heard this question before, thought it through. And apparently the artist, Chihuly, and the installers talk about what they would like to do. And then they have a general framework of what it's going to be, but it's not the same in every place. And it has a shape. I mean, it's actually, watching them put the shape in it it's not trivial. You can't just randomly put these pieces in. You've got to actually design the shape. But each of the shapes and the colors are slightly different in each case. So there's actually an artistic element of even the installation at each time, which I thought was really fabulous. And I guess that's true also with the balls and the ship, is that their location is not the same. It can be different. In fact, you could move them, you know, today and have a different tomorrow. And I wouldn't even probably be aware of that.
It's actually brought the people of the Salk together in a way that I never would have predicted. It's enlivening, it's exciting, it's positive. You know, particularly today, you pick up the newspaper, there's really not much positive to read about. And so this was extraordinarily uplifting in a way that, you know, I never imagined. You know, I imagined the visitors, but I never really thought about the positive impact it would have on the people at the Salk. There are two buildings at the Salk, a north and a south, and they're about, what, 25 yards, 50 yards apart. And people in the north building who work in the north building were saying, gee, we never had a chance to talk to people in the south building. This has been great. And I think it's a good demonstration of what art can do.
Oh, the man is a genius and a great artist, there's no doubt about that. And I'm delighted that somehow we were able at the Salk Institute to open this extraordinary space for his own participation. There's no doubt about it.
What I'd really like to have is have this here for a year, or 2 years, and look at productivity in the Institute and see whether or not having this kind of exhibit here over an extended period of time would change how people think. Would it change the creativity? Would something happen? That's the kind of thing that a scientist wants to do, is do an experiment to see whether or not anything happens.
There are several pieces in the show, but I think the main idea at the Salk was to have the yellow sun at the end of the plaza. That's what I wanted first and foremost. And I wanted to have something, that would be dramatic yet simple. And that's where the black floats came in, having the floats, different size floats throughout the plaza, and then the yellow sun behind it, and then the sunset behind that.